How would you feel if you were able to lose 15 pounds in the next 30 days? Would you have more energy? Would your clothes fit better? Would you be happier when you looked in the mirror? What if you were able to lose 30 pounds in the next 90 days? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what I did to help my client Patrick lose 30 pounds in 90 days while eating In-N-Out almost every single weekend. And by the end of 13 weeks, he was already eating more than when he first started. This is the same system that I used to help Kyle lose 39 pounds in 6 months. And before working with me, Kyle had only ever done keto, and he thought that was the way to go because it had worked for him in the past. But he ended up falling off because, who wants to give up carbs for the rest of their life? And he was even hesitant to add carbs back into his diet when we first started, but he listened. He lost 39 pounds and he looks amazing and he gets to eat carbs, right? This is the same system that helped Brandon lose 53 pounds and be able to step on a bodybuilding stage. Is the same program that helped Earl lose 36 pounds and be able to step on a bodybuilding stage. This is the same system that helped Sal lose 30 pounds in 4 months. Let me move me real quick. This is also the same system that helped John lose 53 pounds in 6 months. And he was actually able to eat ice cream every night in the beginning. And he said he wasn't even hungry most of the time. This also helped Adam lose 55 pounds. And this also helped Patrick, this is a different Patrick, lose 40 pounds in 6 months while going on vacation 7 times during that 6-month span. Now, if you're wondering, who is this guy? Why should I believe him? My name's AJ Quimson, and I'm an IFBB pro. I turned pro in 2017 at the age of 25, and I've been an online coach for the last 9 years. And this is the system that I've come up with to help over 500 people lose the weight, look amazing, and keep it off. But I wasn't always in great shape. When I was young, I actually had horrible eating habits. I was addicted to sugar. I could never leave a store without buying a bag of candy. And my family, I'm Filipino. So when I was young, the whole love language thing was just food. So basically what we would do every day is eat until we thought we were about to puke. And then everybody jokes, we still have a second stomach for dessert. And then we go get ice cream or something like that. And it would feel worse. So every day was like that, which was not bad when I was young because I was into sports and I was always very active. So I didn't get like that fat. But when I went to college and I went to Cal to play rugby, I'm there for sports. I had all of the power to basically eat whatever I wanted. And I was just eating Chinese food and pizza and 7-layer dip and chips for dinner. And the worst part was I would eat a pint of Ben & Jerry's basically every other day. And so pretty quickly, I ended up gaining 30 pounds, which when you're there to play sports is not very good. Not to mention, who the hell wants to just gain 30 pounds of basically fat? So me being fed up with the way that I looked, I felt terrible. I looked terrible. Every time I looked in the mirror, I was like, dude, this is not who you're supposed to be. The version of me that I saw in my head is not what I saw in the mirror. And to make it worse, I was always in the locker room with a bunch of dudes who were not getting fat like me. So that inspired me to want to lose lose the weight and finally get the 6-pack that I had always wanted. But even at this time, 12 years ago, I just Googled, how do I lose fat? And even though there was way less information than we have now, I was just super confused because everything said something different. And I was basically trying everything, but also trying nothing, because I'm trying a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I did keto. I did intermittent fasting. I tried clean eating. I was eating chicken breast and brown rice and broccoli, which is, horrible. And I tried snacking on healthy foods. So I'd snack on apples and peanut butter kind of unlimitedly. And the worst part about that was 2 years later, I had gotten nowhere. It had gotten worse. And it was basically like this yo-yo effect where I would diet really hard and then I would get frustrated and then I would go binge and then it was just very up and down. And then I ended up going on a cruise and I gained 20 pounds in a week. So in total, throughout 2 years, I had gained 50 pounds and I eventually was just like, you know what? This is not me. I need to fix this. I need help. I obviously am not figuring this out. There's too much stuff going on. So I hired a coach and I used bodybuilding as a way to keep me accountable. And I ended up losing 60 pounds in 6 months. So it was pretty amazing. And basically one day I just woke up and I was like, holy shit, you look good. And that was the first time that I'd ever just looked in the mirror and said, you know what, you look good. And that was 10 years ago this year, actually probably 10 years ago to the day almost. And from that day, I decided I was going to be a coach. I waited a year to start coaching. And so I've been coaching for 9 years at this point. I've developed this system that's helped over 500 people lose the weight and keep it off by creating a healthy, sustainable lifestyle. And honestly, that's what my program's all about. I'm just looking to teach you enough about nutrition, training, and establish healthy habits so that you can take this for the rest of your life. I'm just here to block out all of the noise and show you what you can do and what's going to fit with you and your life. And that's just basically my approach to dieting. So like I said, in this video, we're going to talk about my client, Patrick, who lost 30 pounds in 90 days. And in the first month, he lost 15 pounds. So in this picture right here, Patrick was 180 pounds. And 12 weeks later, he looked like this, so he lost 30 pounds in that first, about 90 days. And here's a video just so you can see what exactly he looked like. So, he's pretty shredded. And I think I mentioned he was actually able to eat In-N-Out as a free meal, basically, I think 10 or 11 weeks out of the 12. Anyways, so to get started, right, these are the main pillars that you need to be able to create this lifestyle change, right? So the first is going to be, let me get my pen, nutrition. So you're not going to get anywhere without being able to dial in your nutrition. You've probably heard you can never out-train a bad diet. It doesn't matter how much you're working out, you can always out-eat the amount of calories that you burn. So your nutrition has to be in check. And I know that that's kind of like a big umbrella thing, but we'll get into a little bit more about what I think about it in a little bit. And then the second pillar is going to be training, right? So just like you're worried about how many calories you're taking in, you also have to be paying attention to how many calories you're burning, because you're going to want to basically optimize how much muscle you're retaining, how many calories you're burning, and you're creating this balance between your nutrition and your training to help continue to push progress along, right? Most people, they don't want to just lose weight, they want to lose fat. And so having the correct balance between nutrition and training is going to allow you to lose predominantly fat instead of just losing weight, and then you end up losing a bunch of muscle mass, and then you end up being skinny fat. So the third pillar is what I'd like to say consistency / accountability. Yeah, sorry. But consistency / accountability. And the thing about this is that in order to get consistent, you're going to have to, and to stay accountable, really, it's going to depend on how you structure your nutrition and training. See, what a lot of people do, and where most people make the mistake, is that they get super motivated and they're like, okay, I want to lose 15 pounds in 30 days, or I want to lose 30 pounds in 90 days, whatever the goal is, right? But if you start by essentially using all of the tools that you have at your disposal, which is like, basically cutting out all your calories and doing a ton of cardio or a ton of training and overworking yourself, what happens is, one, you take away all the adjustments that you could make in the future, right? Every time you hit that plateau, you need to make an adjustment to the nutrition or the training to be able to continue to push past that plateau. And then second, most people, if you are in the position where you need to lose 30 pounds, you are not very good at nutrition and or training and just being consistent at it. And so what happens is you get burnt out within the first few weeks, and it's worse because you're like, oh my God, I'm eating so little, I'm doing so much work, and now I hit this plateau, it's not even worth it, right? And then you quit and you're maybe only halfway to your goal. So being able to be consistent being able to be consistent, it's very reliant on how you structure this nutrition and how you structure this training. And then the accountability piece, it can come down to you being accountable to yourself, which is the hardest way to do it. It could be like peer accountability, where you're accountable to other people that are doing this journey with you, or you can have kind of like a guide / mentor that keeps you accountable, someone that you check in with, basically like a coach. How you structure your nutrition program is going to impact your results a lot, right? Anybody can tell you to eat nothing but chicken breast or tilapia and no carbs and just broccoli, right? Anybody can tell you to do that. But the chances of you doing that for the long term is very low. Not to mention, you will hit a plateau, you're going to get burnt out, and it sucks. It's not something that you're going to do long term. So when I break nutrition up, I like to think of having a list of foods that are filling, foods that you enjoy, and foods that are easy to make, because you want things that are filling, they're convenient, and that they taste great. So those are the kind of the three aspects that I look at as far as nutrition. And then training, you have to have a solid base of weight training to make sure that you maintain as much muscle mass as possible so that you can get that toned look, only, or predominantly lose fat and get the look that you're looking for. So this is Patrick's graph, and he started out at 180 pounds, and you can see every week, he was dropping at a pretty consistent pace, right? It's not down every single day, but if you look at it kind of in the macro, the big picture, he's on a steady pace, and it's pretty much at the same pace the entire time. So we started off the diet here. Along the way, he's making these big drops, and then when he goes up, it's typically when he gets the in and out for the cheat meal. And then he keeps going, right? And he ends up at 149.8 pounds. So how did we come up with his original diet? That's going to be the most important part, and that's basically what we're going to cover the most here. But for starters, this is what he put in his onboarding questionnaire. I'm going to show you some of his answers. But he said, I asked him, what are the obstacles that are preventing you from reaching your goal? Please be specific. And he said, I lack on consistency. I need someone to keep me in check. Otherwise, I get lazy. This is kind of a big problem for most people, and they don't even realize it. It's not always a knowledge thing, right? Most people understand what a healthy diet would consist of. And so, you can get into kind of the more intricate details about it, but most people just have a hard time getting themselves to eat what they know that they should probably already be eating. And the things that you can do with your diet that can help impact like how consistent you are, because it makes it a little bit easier. But at the end of the day, most people need a little bit of accountability, which is, essentially what coaching is for. Coaching is to help you fast track your progress, by basically canceling out the noise and all of the other things that you could be doing and help you focus on one track that's going to lead you there. And also just keeping you accountable to what you're supposed to be doing. Because let's be honest, self-accountability is hard for most people. So these are his beginning stats. So he was 180 pounds to start. His waist was 32 inches. He is about 5'11". He is 32 years old, because this just happened. And on his current diet, he said he eats meal prep chicken, ground turkey, or ground beef or steak during the week. And then weekends, he usually likes to eat out because he's too lazy to cook. And so this is another problem that most people have, which is that they think that they're eating good during the week, and they might be, but it's much easier to blow your diet on the weekend than it is to create this deficit, where essentially you're eating less than your body needs to maintain. And so when you do this deficit, when you're eating less than your body needs to maintain itself, that is when your body taps into your stored energy to get the energy that you're looking for. And your stored energy is your fat, in case you didn't notice, or in case you didn't know. Because I know Patrick is actually a friend from high school, and I know kind of him and his eating habits and things like that. I knew that he was probably eating like crazy amounts on the weekends. And when you're creating a diet, you always want to start by eating as much food as possible, because like I said earlier, if you start by eating as much as you possibly can while still making progress, that gives you more room to make adjustments later on down the line. So the way that I calculate calories is a very simple calculation. It's just going to be your body weight times 13. And so that's going to be your calories. So for him, it was 180 times 13, which equals about 2350 or 2,300, somewhere around there. But it ended up being 2,300. So for his diet, I always make sure I ask people what exactly do they like to eat, because like I said, when you're looking at nutrition to help you be more consistent, you want to add in foods that you like as much as possible. You don't want to just be eating, food that you hate, because you might be motivated to do that for a little bit, but the chances that you do that long term are pretty low, right? So he likes chicken, ground beef, steak, ground turkey. For carbs, he likes rice, noodles, potatoes, bread, tortillas. And then for fats, he likes peanut butter. He put beans. Beans is not really fat, and then avocado. He said that there are no foods that he would not eat no matter what. And he said that, he'd eat anything, right? So those are things that are important to know, because again, you want to make sure that you're putting foods in your diet that you like as much as possible. So this question, I just like to ask for people's schedule, because I want to make sure that I'm giving you a diet that you can fit within your day. You know what I mean? So I could give you 6 meals a day, but if you only eat twice a day right now, the chances that you eat 6 meals a day next week are pretty low. And not everybody needs to eat 6 meals a day. We just got to make sure that you're eating enough of the calories and protein and everything that you need. So boom, I'm going to show you the calories that we got him for. So the amount of calories that he had was just under 2,350, which is why I put that there. 200 grams of protein. So for protein, I put protein will be your lean body mass times about somewhere between 1.0 to 1.4. So generally, I'll kind of stay like roughly in the middle-ish. So for Patrick, I ended up going with about 200 grams of protein, which is, in between this range right here. And then the fats and the carbs I kind of let fall however I see fit. You can calculate those if you want to, but basically we want to make sure that we're eating the right amount of calories, enough protein, and then, fill out the rest with the carbs and the fats. If you're heavier and you're on the bigger side, you have more weight to lose, then I would probably go higher on the fat, less on the carb. Here I kept it pretty moderate, same amount of protein, same amount of carbs. Anyways, so for the first meal, this is what I had him at after I calculated what numbers he should have. So we got 2 whole eggs, 200 grams of egg whites, and then 1 Thomas bagel. He said this is basically, what he liked eating anyways. So very simple meal. I just make a breakfast sandwich, 44 grams of protein, 52 grams of carbs, and 12 grams of fat, basically about 500 calories. For meal 2, he had 200 grams of boneless, skinless chicken thighs and 300 grams of russet potatoes. So the chicken is cooked weight. The potatoes are raw weight. The reason that potatoes you would measure raw is just because for potatoes, depending on how you like to cook it, and their preferences vary, the amount of water that you would lose in the potato can vary a lot, right? So if I have an 8-ounce potato, if I cook it to hell because I want it crispy, that 8-ounce potato can end up being 3.5 ounces, but it's still the same amount of potatoes, still the same amount of carbs, but the weight can vary. But if I just, microwaved it or made a baked potato, it's still going to be very close to that 8 ounces. So for potatoes, that's kind of the one thing that I would measure raw weight. But this is basically what he said he ate every day as a kid, so he's very used to it. And thighs are better than breasts if you can afford the extra fat. And then I add 100 to 200 grams of green vegetables here. For his third meal, we ended up with 4 meals. I got 1 scoop of the Legion Isolate protein powder, 3 caramel corn rice cakes, and then 30 grams of peanut butter. My guy Patrick loves peanut butter, so I had to throw some in there for him. This is just like a light meal. Typically, I'll float this meal around. You can have it whenever during the day that usually it's like a bit of a pre-workout meal because it's light on the stomach, and then you can go train right after. And then for the 4th meal, I gave him burgers. So it was 175 grams of ground beef, that's cooked weight, and 2 Signature Select burger buns. So he lives in the Bay Area, so it was at Safeway. That's Signature Select. If you're in Southern California, like me, it's at Vaughn's. And I don't know really where else it is, but basically it's about 25 grams of carbs. So 50 grams of carbs total, and then 45 grams of cheddar cheese, reduced fat. So lower in the fat, higher in protein. And so, yeah, those are basically his 4 meals. The reason I broke it up into 4 meals is because of his schedule, but also when you're thinking about, getting your protein intake in, it's typically the hardest thing to do. So you want to break it up fairly evenly across all of your meals to make sure that you are able to hit that amount. And, most people are not going to eat 100 grams of protein per sitting, and your digestion might not even be able to carry that or to take that. He told me that he trained 5 days a week for about an hour to 2. So, I gave him basically I gave him 5 days a week of training because he already did that. And for cardio, he said 5 days a week, I walk at a 2 pace for 20 minutes, but I recently went back to Stairmaster. Yeah, so he's basically doing very, very low intensity cardio. So for him, I started him off at 5 days of training per week, and then I did 3 sessions of 20 minutes, but his cardio that I gave him was at a target heart rate of 135 to 145 BPM. 20 minutes. So, you can't even see that. But yeah, so this is basically how we started off his program, right? And like I said, you want to start off by doing the least amount of work possible while eating the most amount of food possible, because as you keep going, you're able to make adjustments to the diet. So, and if I go back here and I just show you his graph again, right? So like you'll see, he makes these huge drops. He drops from here to here. I think this was about 3 or 4 pounds. And so anytime that you're like, the pace that you would ideally want to try and lose weight sustainably should be about 0.5% to 1% of your total body weight lost per week. And so if it's above that, we know that the diet's in a good place, but the faster you lose weight, the kind of downside would be, 1, you might end up losing muscle mass because you're losing weight very rapidly. And 2, your metabolism can try and adapt to what you're doing because it is also more aggressive, right? So your metabolism is always going to want to adapt to what your body's doing. It doesn't want to let you starve to death. So it's going to try and adapt to what you're doing. So what you can do to combat that is either have periods where you take a diet break, or you can add in cheat meals. So basically your body knows there are days where I get more calories and I'm not always in a deficit. So basically when you see all these weight spikes up here, it's typically when I gave him in and out. And so every week he was losing, 2-3 pounds, sometimes 4 pounds, and then he was getting in and out every week. And so that's how I was able to make that decision. When you're losing that much weight, you don't have to change the diet as much until you maybe hit a plateau around here. So right around here, this is actually about the 10-week mark. And that's when I said, look, man, we've lost plenty of weight. You look great. Let's start adding food back in. And so as I started adding food back in, it's sort of flatlined, but also his body's relaxing, because if you're losing that weight very rapidly, your body's also a little bit stressed out, holding some water weight. So when your body's finally able to relax, you might see this big drop right here. And that's just your body like letting go of that water weight from the stress. And so it's funny because at this point he hits this new low, it was about like 95 days in, and he was eating more food than when he was eating up here. I think it was 2,500 calories at this point. So he lost 30 pounds. And then by the end of this 12 and a half weeks, 13 weeks, he's eating 200 calories more than when he first started. But that's basically the rundown on exactly how I created the plan that helped Patrick lose 30 pounds in 90 days and 15 pounds in the first 30 days, which is here. Yeah, right about here. This is the first 30 days, roughly. But hopefully that was helpful. I kind of explained what are the things that you needed to do. Well, hopefully this helped. And if you're the type of person that's going to go implement this and get to work and go off and lose the fat on your own, and you feel like this is enough information for you, I would love to see that. So if you're going to do that, make sure you leave me a message on Instagram. The link to my Instagram is below. I just want to know what results you get and how this has helped you. But if you feel like this, hey, this is something that I can get with. I like what you're saying about doing the least amount of work and eating the most amount of food possible. I like what you're saying about not starving right out the gate and filling your diet plan full of foods that you enjoy, foods that are satiating, and foods that are easy to make. And you just don't want to do this yourself. You don't want to calculate this stuff. You don't want to do any of that, and you feel like you need someone else to hold you accountable. I'm going to leave a link. It's going to be the first link in the description, and it's just going to be a link to schedule a call with me, and we'll just get on the call and we'll talk about you and your goals and the things that are holding you back, and we're going to see if I can even help you and if it seems like it would be a good fit for us to work together. Because I'm just going to be honest, I don't want to work with everybody. I just don't. And you should basically get to know me and see if this is something that you want to do. And so if that's something that you want to do, you want to explore that, you want that accountability, you want this done for you, schedule a link at the call, or schedule a call at the link below, and we'll see if we can help you out. And if you want to see what a full day of eating looks like for me when I create my own diet, you can click on this link here.